Coming to you from a studio somewhere out there. It's Enough Already Radio with Fingers Malloy and Tracy O'Connor.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, and welcome once again to another Enough Already podcast. My name is Fingers Malloy. She is Tracy O'Connor. We're doing something a little new this week, and I don't know if this is going to work out or even if you're going to see it. But we're experimenting with recording the podcast not only for you folks out there on iTunes and SoundCloud and Stitcher and Google Play, but we've been posting the podcast on YouTube and BitChute with just the audio and a slide of our kick-ass logo that Tracy designed for the show.
No, my brother did that. Let's give him proper props.
Oh, okay. Tracy's brother designed it. Forgive me. That was 2 years ago, and I can't remember what happened yesterday. So I just knew I didn't do it because I would have used.
No, come on. He's a super famous podcaster now as well.
That's true. What's the name of his podcast so people can check it out if you're into that?
Minor Details, and it's all about design.
It's all about design. Why didn't they call it all about design?
Because they're more clever than that.
Oh, okay. Okay. So Tracy's brother came up with our logo, so we would just put the podcast on YouTube and BitChute using the logo, a little slide on the front of it. If I would have designed it, I would have used Microsoft Paint, Tracy. It would have looked fantastic. But now we're experimenting with a video component of this show, so we may have a video podcast on a regular basis. It'll be it's just a podcast, except they'll be on video, Tracy. I make it complex simple. This is what I do. Of course.
Yes, and we've just spent 50 minutes playing around with the software to try to get it to work.
And I've never understood why anyone would want to watch a video podcast. I understand, Tracy's a good-looking gal. Is that politically correct to say gal?
No.
Broad? Skirt?
Sure.
Okay. But I've never understood why anyone would want to watch a middle-aged man in HD. I don't get it, but then you see, people like Rush Limbaugh have their Rush Cam.
The Ditto Cam.
The Ditto Cam.
There's fun.
And people apparently will watch the Ditto Cam, and God bless Rush. But he's like, what is he, 68, something like that, 66?
Somewhere up there, yeah.
Yeah. So I guess if people will, are willing to, I mean, he's Rush Limbaugh, but still, you're seeing middle-aged men, old men doing video on YouTube, so I guess people watch it. Tracy, do you watch
it?
Do you watch old men?
Middle age, I watch Rogan.
Rogan is what, 50, 53, something like that?
I think he's just 50 or just about to turn 50.
Now you're going to make me Google that. Rogan is a freak, though. I mean, he works out, and then if you listen to him talk about how he takes care of himself. He actually pays attention to what he eats. I've heard about people.
I know, it's crazy.
And it's like supplements and stuff. And God bless him. I really enjoy what he does, not only with his podcast, but the video clips that they put together. Because you introduced me to the long form podcasts, and when we first started doing this show, we had 3-hour podcasts. Mm-hmm. And I thought to myself, my gosh, how do people listen to a 3-hour podcast? Do they listen to the whole thing? Joe Rogan will be 52 in a few months.
Oh, okay.
So, but what I like about Joe Rogan's show is when they have interesting takes on subjects with his guests, they'll put 11, 12-minute video on YouTube. And I watch those all the time.
Well, have you seen the cartoons that they do, too?
No, they do cartoons?
Yeah. I can't remember. There's a name. I don't know. It's like Rogan Tunes or whatever. But those are usually shorter. And they just use the audio of the guest and then somebody animates them.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Well, I have to tell you, before we get into everything, and by the way, we did put a special podcast up. I went back and looked for all the podcasts that Pat Caddell had been on Enough Already. And I was surprised. He had been on our show 4 times, Tracy.
It's our most frequent guest then, right?
pretty much. I think Pat and maybe Monica Crowley or Carol Roth. But I think Pat has probably been on the most. We just stopped doing guests in the last year, I would say. It's just hard for us to coordinate our own schedules to be able to podcast,
right.
let alone bring on a guest. But we had Pat on 4 times, and we released a special podcast. That's Tracy taking a drag off of her e-cig for you kids out there that aren't listening or aren't watching the video. But we had Pat on 4 times, and it was radio gold, Tracy. I sat back and I thought, well, maybe I should just take bits and pieces of each interview and shorten the show. But I was like, oh, the hell with it. So it's 2 hours and 40 minutes of Pat Caddell talking, and it's great. So look for that on iTunes, SoundCloud, Stitcher, TuneIn. It's just called Remembering Pat Caddell. It's just sad. I wish I would have had the opportunity to meet him like you did. You're not going to get misty on me, are you? Should I stop talking about this?
No, I'll be okay.
Oh, okay. Well, you're sentimental. You're the sentimental type, Tracy. I think that's everybody knows that about you.
Right.
Tracy had a feeling one time about 3 years ago. But anyway, I do have a bone to pick with you before we get into whatever we're going to talk about today, and we have a lot to talk about.
Okay.
You ruined my weekend. I am not one who watches TV shows about things and stuff.
Uh-huh.
I started binge watching the Leah Remini Scientology show.
Oh, okay.
Let's see, a day and a half, I went through all of season 1, and I think I'm 3 shows into season 2.
Wow.
And they are batshit crazy.
You didn't know that?
Well, listen, I always thought it was kind of, a freaky cult. You don't run into too many Scientologists in the Midwest. After I started watching the show, I got on Scientology.org to see where the nearest Scientology church is to central Indiana, and there's one in Cincinnati and one in Chicago. So that tells you all you need to know about Scientology's hold in Indiana.
The Midwest. Well, you should reach out to them and tell them you're interested in opening a center in Indianapolis. This is like the biggest. What, really?
And there is, if you do a Google search for Scientology Indianapolis, there was one, but it's listed as permanently closed on Google. And then when you get on Scientology's website, they only list Greater Cincinnati and Chicago.
Did Mike Pence chase them out?
Yes. Yeah.
He sent the white vans?
Yeah. It actually has on the side of the white van a circle and a slash through gays and Scientologists. And so he throws them in the back and takes them to the camps. That's what Mike Pence does. But so I started watching this show. And can I say something about Leah Remini?
Sure.
First of all, she's still hot. God bless her. She's what? She's like 50, something like that. I don't know.
I'll Google that for you.
I don't mean to sound critical because I enjoy the show and I think overall what she's doing, it's very good work and exposing these people. I mean, if you haven't watched the show, I won't give too many spoiler alerts, or too many spoilers, but I mean, it's like they have their own secret police and secret prisons and all this wild stuff that I had no idea was going on. But, man, she really loves herself some Leah Remini.
Oh.
I mean, I
guess I didn't notice that. I've only watched the first season. Does it get worse in the second?
Well, no, it's pretty consistent throughout as far as I'm concerned. Nobody's going to stop me. Nobody can intimidate me. And then whenever someone starts crying, she has to go over the top and start crying. You're like, this guy is, there's a journalist talking about how he had been attacked. They were having this panel discussion. And he said, thank God you're doing this show, because I was scared about how, the Scientologists, the hire private detectives, according to this show, to follow, and they'll harass journalists who are trying to tell the truth about Scientology. And so this guy was talking about how he was really happy that they were shedding light on all this, and he was and then she just starts, and he's like starting to choke up, and then she busts out crying and has to stop the whole show. It's like, oh my gosh, anyone who has a moment, she has to come in over the top and start crying, and it's like, okay, is that genuine or is it acting? So there was a lot of that. It was like kind of rolling your eyes after a while, like, okay, we get it. You're not going to be intimidated. We're doing great work here. Yeah. So after a while, like, okay, we get it. But overall, I mean, did you know that? Had you heard these stories? Have you? Are there many Scientologists in Pennsylvania? Have you run into Scientologists? Well, I forgot you worked in the entertainment industry. There are some Scientologists out there, aren't there?
Yeah, I don't know that I ever worked with any, but I knew enough about it because I watched the HBO doc Going Clear, which is based off of a book that's on my list of books to read. But I also saw the first season of Leah's show, and she did Rogan's podcast. And he also had David Miscavige, who's now the head of the entire Church of Scientology. His father got out.
Oh, okay.
And so he had his dad on. I think they had his dad living in that prison or one of their remote, prison camp things.
Yeah. And he was on Leah Remini's show too. The father. And I thought you were going to say David was on the show.
No,
the chairman of the board. I was like, whoa, that's
he's the captain or whatever.
Yeah. But I had no idea about how this was based on kind of had the structure of the Navy and people who were walking around in
the Sea Org.
Yeah, the Sea Org, like naval uniforms and stuff.
Well, the way I interpret the story in my head is this whole religion was invented by L. Ron Hubbard because he didn't want to pay taxes. And so he first set up on a boat.
Yeah.
That's why it's called the Sea Org. And they were in the Mediterranean, I believe. Because when you're in international waters, who do you owe taxes to?
Right.
But then they went after the IRS hardcore when they were trying to get their tax exempt status as a religious organization.
According to that show, they're going after agents personally. It's this thing where they set up websites and they hire private investigators to dig up any kind of dirt on any people who oppose or criticize Scientology. Weird, wild stuff, man. And but I don't think I've ever met a Scientologist. There are questions that I have that I would like to see answered. Like, who makes those e-meters? There's a company out there that has to make these e-meters.
I think they do it in-house.
They do?
Because, well, Leah, how much did Leah end up spending? Did she talk about that?
Well, she said, where you cross over, where you clear, I think they call it, or whatever, when you finally get
clear
to the high level, the highest level, you have to spend between $250,000 and $300,000.
Right. But then you can get knocked down and you have to pay to get back up the ladder. And so imagine somebody like Leah Remini is not going to miss $200,000, $300,000.
Right.
But if you or I wanted to join there, well, I don't have that kind of coin to put up to climb this silly ladder.
Well,
so they enslave all those people. So that's who's building the e-meters. Is their slave labor.
They have their own Chinese Apple company, Apple factory right in California making these e-meters. Here I thought it was Radio Shack. No, it's not Radio Shack. But
they can't. That's proprietary tech, Fingers.
That's true.
There's 2 Campbell soup cans attached to a car battery.
I need to know what makes that needle move. Is it just a random number generator, like a slot machine that will make the needle swing around? Or does it actually read your pulse, and then there's some mathematical equation that will, make the between that and your blood pressure or whatever?
Don't be ridiculous. It's your thetans. It's reading your thetans.
Oh, see.
No, you got to watch
the
the Rogan interview. When she goes in and she tells the story about how when she got clear or whatever, reached the highest level. I want to say there are 33 levels or something like that. It's like the Masons. But that's when they tell her that it's actually, there's this guy named Xenu or whatever, and then there's this other planet and like the Phaetons, and she's like, you got to be fucking kidding me. And she had gone with her mom because her mom's the one that got her into it. I guess it was, I don't remember if it was her stepdad or just some gentleman her mom was dating when she was younger, but that got them into the church.
I think it was
her mom had already gone through all of this. So she was like indignant with her mother. Like, that's the end of this. This is where we've been going. There's some alien planet. And then there was a volcanic explosion and it released all these things called photons. And then they've attached themselves to all of us. And we've got to exorcise the demons or something. It's bizarre. The guy was a science fiction writer and he's become their god.
It's piss poor science fiction.
Yeah.
But to me, when it comes to her, I don't know if she ever says how much. I'm sure maybe she probably. I'll have to go back and watch the Rogan interview. But one thing that Scientology does is, as you become a celebrity, they coddle their celebrities and treat them differently than they would normal human beings. Now, she may have spent all the money that she needed to spend to get to whatever level that she got to before she became known. Because she entered the church when she was 13 years old. But I mean, there was story after story. People were talking about how they would go in, they would get their e-meter reading, their audit done, and then they would say, okay, well, to continue, it'll cost you $5,000 or something. I'm just throwing a number out there. And, obviously, if I'm going in there and I'm hearing it, I need to spend $5,000, I would laugh and laugh and laugh.
Yeah.
They would surround these people and pressure them to call a credit card company. They could pull up their credit rating or the credit report right there and say, oh, look, you've got the money on your Capital One credit card right there. You could pay us right with that. Or here's what you can do. You can call your credit card company and tell them this, and this, and you can get your credit rating your credit limit raised. It's like, holy shit.
It's the biggest grift of all time. It's even better than having your own political campaign.
Right?
Fingers.
How many beach houses could you get out of this?
They have billions of dollars in real estate.
Yeah. So, you got me hooked on that show.
Well, good. Just because I watch TV, you got hooked on TV.
Blame you. You told me to watch it like 8 months ago, and I finally got around to it. So, what's the next show I should binge watch? Empire?
Yes. No, I think we should boycott because they're writing Jesse off the last couple episodes.
I have to tell you this whole Jesse Solmet Buttafuoco? What's Smollett. This whole incident has ruined Empire for me, Tracy.
Sorry.
I just can't watch it.
That was one where you were waiting for the whole show to end so you could just binge it from start to finish.
That's right. Right after Hello, Larry.
God.
You kids under the age of 50, go ask Jeeves, hello, Larry. But no.
Go ask Google what's hello, Jeeves.
Well, what do you want to talk about this week? We're doing our best. We're going to do our best to keep this free of someone's name that's been brought up a lot. I don't know if we're going to get through it, but, that 20-something congressman. We're not going to mention her name this week.
Right. And that's my question is how much longer are they going to put up with being called congressman? Because that's what you're supposed to call any member of Congress.
Right.
It's like postman or whatever. So I don't know how they can let this stand. I think we could get them riled up if we started pointing it out to them.
I think that we need to come up with a website. We'll get our best Scientology friends who build websites to come up with something to promote this. I mean, we still have to build our Scam Pack website. That needs to happen because both of us need beach houses. But
well, it could be our first political action. A Scam Pack is getting it to be all women that are members of Congress must be called Congresswomen or Congresswomen.
Yes. We need to get on that. Who do we talk to?
I mean, that seems low-hanging fruit compared to all the other nonsense we've had to put up with.
Send us $5.
Yeah. We'll go down and lobby them directly.
Oh, my gosh.
But that did make me think of this USA Today article that came out, I believe it was today, actually. With women in combat roles, a federal court rules the male-only draft is unconstitutional.
Thank you. Finally.
Right? No, this is one of the things that Phyllis Schlafly used to defeat the Equal Rights Amendment in the 70s. Mm-hmm. It's one of the things that she pointed out, like, hey, dummies. By doing all this stuff, you're opening women up to being drafted. I don't think we're ready for that yet. So this isn't, this is just a lower court judge that's decided this. But the reasoning sounds completely legitimate to me.
Well, I mean, look, a lot of the feminist movement today really loves to cherry pick all the good stuff about being a guy, but they kind of leave the shitty stuff behind.
Yeah, they don't call for equal representation in sanitary workers or, anything gross.
Well, and euthanasia for women, because I think we need to bring your lifespan down because you live longer than us. So,
that's fair.
On average, if we could figure out a way in science for they've got the death clock right now for you. You can enter your information, and the computer will give an estimated guess as to how long you should live. So say you put in your information, your height, your weight, what you eat, how much you exercise, and it says you're going to live to be 87. When you hit 83, I'm sorry, you're just going to have to die.
I've not heard that argument before.
We're going to have to do a lethal injection, or, we could be humane. You could pick which way you want to die if you want to take a pill. You be you. Kiss a tailpipe.
Force women to start smoking when they turn 80.
Right?
Yeah. We got to make it fair, right?
Yeah, I mean, and there has to be a way that we can predict, natural causes death nowadays. Maybe hook you up to an e-meter. Maybe an e-meter can tell us. Grab the cans, Tracy. Grab the cans. But the cherry picking. Yeah, it really sucks. When I turned 18, we were in the middle of the Cold War. Well, not in the middle, but we were fighting the Cold War. And, 1990, the Gulf War started. And anyone that age was like, oh, shit, will they bring back the draft? I mean, the reporting back then, it was like, oh, my gosh, the Republican National Guard that Iraq had, it's like 1 million troops. And, the United States Army, while it has sophisticated technology, the Army isn't nearly as big as these battle-hardened Iraqi troops who have been fighting an 8-year war with Iran. And this could drag on. Maybe we'll have to institute the draft. Like, oh, shit. This sucks.
Yeah, so take me through that, because I didn't have this experience because I wasn't forced to sign up for selective service.
Yeah, you have to go down to, I believe, in Michigan, where I was living at the time, you had to go where you would, I believe, I mean, this is a long time ago, Tracy, where you get your driver's license. And you would sign up for selective service. I think it was either that or maybe it was the post office. But I think it was the Secretary of State. You could do it there. And you would just sign up for it and then forget about it and hope you would never get drafted. Because, they hadn't had a draft since NAM.
Right.
So, but no, my dad, served in the Army between the Korean War and the Vietnam War, and he was all for. He's like, wow, I think everybody should serve in the military for 2 years. Now, I, of course, thought that was a horrible idea.
Yeah.
So, now, maybe in 2 or 3 years when all the dust settles in the courts, you ladies out there, you'll be able to go when you're 18 and have to go through the same crap I went through. So, and then have to worry about being drafted.
Yeah, and if you don't register, there's all kinds of stuff, right?
Yeah, you can't. Student loans.
I've got it up in front of me. So on USA.gov/selective-service.
Mm-hmm.
What happens if you don't register? Ready?
Mm-hmm.
If you're required to register and you don't, which is any man who turns 18, you've got, I think it's 30 days
mm-hmm.
to do it. Yeah, awesome. You will not be eligible for federal student aid, federal job training, or a federal job. And you may be prosecuted and face a fine of up to $250,000 and or jail time of up to 5 years. They force immigrants to do this too. I didn't realize that.
Wow.
If you're an immigrant to the U.S., you will not be eligible for citizenship. Huh.
Well, wow. Now here's the question. If this, like I said, after the dust settles and all the court challenges are challenged. I haven't watched Matlock in a while. What happens then? I mean, are they going to have will it just start to be implemented in a way that 18-year-olds will sign up? But if you're 19, you won't have to sign up? Will they have a block of people say, okay, in this initial run, we have to have women from the ages of 18 to 24 go sign up?
You'd think. I mean, that would be well, it's interesting. This court case was brought by the National Coalition for Men, which is a men's rights group. And they were arguing that it's not fair. And I think they have a totally legitimate case. It's not fair. So last time this was it went to the Supreme Court in 1981 in Rostker versus Goldberg. And the court ruled that it was justified because women were ineligible for combat. But that's no longer the case.
Right.
So these guys are correct. And this is what yay equality gets you.
So we didn't want that.
No, wait, what?
Wow. Well, that is interesting. And who knows how long this court fight will be, because I'm sure it will be appealed.
Oh, without a doubt.
And it will go all the way to the Supreme Court, I would think.
And they also said that this ruling comes as an 11-member commission is studying the future of the draft, including whether women should be included or whether there should continue to be a draft registration at all.
Well, listen, if we're serious about climate change, Tracy, we're going to have to go to war at some point with China, and you should see the amount of troops China has. We're going to have to implement the draft, and unfortunately, you win.
Well, it's China and India.
Oh, yeah, China and
Remember
India.
this. Talk about a lot of people.
Yeah.
It's over 2 billion.
2 billion
isn't it?
right there. Yeah.
Yeah. And don't you love that? That's gotten picked up now. I've seen a lot of other people saying this on social media. They're like, well, she who remain unnamed this week. If you've got a better plan, let me know. I saw some people saying, yeah, let's bomb all the Chinese factories and all the Indian factories. Problem solved.
Yeah.
That'll cut down on pollution.
How are we going to bomb them with trains, though?
That'll be tough. We got to start building that bridge. Well, we got to get Mazie Hirono back to Hawaii anyway, right? So if she's going to high-speed rail it to Hawaii, we got to build a tunnel or... I know.
I don't know if we talked about this last week or not, because I'm doing Tony's show, Eat, Drink, Smoke. Do the Snark Factor. I'm doing this show. Going to start another show here in a little bit. So I'm doing lots of shows. Cameron Gray, our friend from formerly of NRA News, coined me the king of small media. Yes. So, but I don't remember. Did we talk about how California has decided to stop
Their choo-choo?
yeah, their expensive high-speed choo-choo train.
Yes.
So it's going to be interesting to see now that they've done that, if the right will be able to push back on a lot of this stuff, saying, look, you couldn't even do it in California. And
Right.
look how expensive that was.
That argument never works, though. They've tried to figure out if they could do Medicare for all in California.
Yeah.
And then they looked at the potential bill, and they said, nope, I'm not going to do that. But that hasn't stopped them from talking about it on the national level now. I don't know if there's a single Democrat that's running that's not Medicare for all in some way, shape, or form.
How bad do you have to be to not be able to push back against that or the Green New Deal effectively? And that's really what worries me about all of this is so many times you'll see opinion polls in presidential races where the question, one of the most important questions will be how likable the person is. Does this particular candidate care about me? Which candidate would I like to have a beer with the most? And the people who tend to win or score higher on those questions tend to win the presidency.
Right. Well, it's a popularity contest.
So if you have these outrageously radical policies and you couple them with a very likable candidate, and that likable candidate has coattails and can bring in other politicians of his or her party that are just as batshit crazy as this person, it worries the hell out of me. I mean, I take what's her name, the person we're not going to mention this week. I take her very seriously.
Oh yeah. Well, look at where the conversation is now. The conversation's right where Bernie Sanders wants it to be.
Right.
And so the only thing differentiating anybody from what I can tell is their personality and their looks. When you listen to them and see what they're pushing as far as policy wise, I think that was brakes outside my window. Maybe.
Okay.
Somebody needs to get to the shop.
It sounded like a police siren.
No, it was squealing.
Oh.
Somebody got into their rotors. So, no, there's really so little policy difference between them. It's who do you like the best? Who do you want to look at for the next 4 years on your television?
I often question too how Americans, how well they are at being able to judge someone's character and spot a phony from a mile away. I mean, Kamala Harris to me comes across as so phony. It's like Hillary Clinton, except 20 years younger.
A little bit better of a personality.
Yeah, I could listen to her speak. I'll give her that. I've seen her give a speech or two, and she's much better in front of a camera than Hillary, in front of a microphone in front of Hillary. But my God, it's so phony. Like that segment she did for the Colbert Show, where she's
all.
Oh yeah,
Was that where she was dancing? Or
yeah,
was
her
she
little
dancing?
chair dancing. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Talking about her
dancing and
talking about her favorite songs at a barbecue. And you're like, okay, right.
Well, I like that she smoked pot while listening to Tupac's album. So she traveled to the future. She was saying she was in I can't remember if she was saying she was in grad school when she did it, or if it was when she was in law school that she smoked pot listening to Snoop and Tupac. And think, nah, your math's off, lady.
She's
totally
just like
off.
us, Tracy.
Of course.
She's so relatable.
Yeah. I remember when I was in law school, just rolling up spliffs and hitting blunts and listening to California Love or Gin and Juice.
She just likes going to the barbecue and listening to Lady Gaga, just like the rest of us, Tracy.
I'm sure she does.
I cringed at that video as much as I did the Hillary video where the Vine. I'm just chilling in Cedar Rapids, and she had the beer koozie. It said Chillery Clinton. You remember
I
that?
didn't realize it said Chillery on it. No.
It's Chillery. I'm just chilling in Cedar Rapids. And you know that took like 15 takes.
Oh, of course.
I'm just Cedar in Chiller Rapids. Cut!
She's seizing up again. It's a shot of adrenaline.
And some apple cider vinegar.
Yes. But I don't know if you got to see this op-ed that was written by, apparently it's a guy from 2 Live Crew. Do you remember that?
Do I remember? Good Lord, you could not get away from Me So Horny back in 1989, 88, late 80s. And then there was that whole battle whether their performance of the non-radio edit of Me So Horny was considered obscene and they could be arrested for performing it. I don't know if...
wasn't it Tipper Gore that went toe-to-toe with them?
Maybe, but the Tipper Gore stuff was more mid 80s, you know, when they had Dee Snider come in and testify, and then they had the battle over whether they should have the explicit lyrics sticker put on cassettes. And Dee Snider was fantastic.
I didn't realize he testified before Congress.
Oh, you have to go back and watch that. If you get an opportunity, after we're done, it's got to be on YouTube. I mean, he just destroys them all. I mean, they're expecting this long-haired, you know,
doofus.
Yeah, drug addict. You know, and I don't think I'm not sure if Dee Snider ever did drugs or drank. He may have been like Ted Nugent, but they just assume when he's walking in with long hair and makeup that probably on heroin, probably on the sweet H. But I think that may have been earlier than the 2 Live Crew stuff. I think that was like Florida. Local prosecutors were going after them for. I mean, because the 2 Live Crew shows back in the day, they would be doing the Me So Horny song, and then they'd have like women in cages dancing, and
it happens.
Oh, I mean, by today's standards.
Sounds like an ISIS video.
I was going to say Justin Bieber video, but, you know, same thing, really.
But, they're both torturous.
Yes, but to answer your question, yes, I do remember Luther Campbell in 2 Live Crew.
Well, I didn't. And then this morning I was watching my favorite Sunday morning cartoon show, AM Joy.
Yes. Wait, before you go any further, you never heard Me So Horny before?
Oh, of course I have.
Oh, okay.
But, yes, I live on the planet Earth.
Oh, you were like, I didn't remember them.
No, I didn't know his name.
Oh, you didn't remember Luther Campbell's name. Okay.
No, no. I don't think I could pick them out of a lineup. I don't know if I recall what they look like.
Luther was the, I believe, the lead rapper in 2 Live Crew, and he had a big gap in between his teeth. But I don't remember. I'm sure if I saw him on TV now, I'd be like, oh, that's Luther Campbell. Because he was, I'm telling you, in the late 80s, it was Saturday Night Live was doing stuff on Weekend Update about it. I mean, it was all people. It was between 2 Live Crew and Andrew Dice Clay. Those were the two. Oh, my gosh, where's society going? It's crazy. People are swearing and talking about sex. It's nuts. But, you know, a little before your time, Tracy.
Just a bit. I have vague memories of them. But so anyway, on AM Joy this morning, Joy did a very special one-on-one interview with, I believe we're now supposed to pronounce her name, Kamala Harris. That's
what?
The proper pronunciation.
Kamala?
Kamala.
So she's Pamela, except with a K.
Yes.
Okay. Kamala.
So they had a one-on-one interview, and then they would cut back to the panel, and the panel would discuss. And one of the things that was brought up on the panel was the fact that a lot of black men have some serious issues with Kamala, because she was a DA in San Francisco, and then she was the state attorney general for the state of California. and she was pretty tough on crime. And so Mr. Luther Campbell apparently was quoted on the show, and I'm like, wait, what? The guy from 2 Live Crew? Apparently he's pretty politically active in southern Florida. So he wrote a piece for the Miami New Times a couple weeks ago that kicked off a shitstorm, apparently, in circles that neither you or I follow, apparently. But he says, Kamala Harris will have trouble persuading black voters to make her president in 2020. First, the U.S. Senator from California must explain why Donald Trump has a better prison reform record than she had as the Golden State's Attorney General.
Okay.
Then she'll have to overcome the perception that she'll do anything to climb to the top.
Really?
Oh, yes. And that's a reference to, if anybody doesn't know, she was having an affair with Willie Brown.
Did he use the words climb to the top?
Yes.
Okay.
Why? Is that a lyrical reference of 2 Live Crews, or you just...
my mind went to climbing on top of something to get to the top.
He was a lyricist, Finger.
I'm a dirty old man, so when that comes up with Kamala?
Kamala.
Kamala? Well, that's what I think about. God bless. She wouldn't be the first person to sleep her way up to the top.
No.
We're going to criticize her. The last person who got the Democratic nomination rode the coattails of a rapist to the nomination.
Right.
So, whatever.
Yeah, I don't know what's worse. I think rapist coattails is probably pretty bad. I don't know. Oh, so he continues, on the street, many blue-collar African Americans, especially men, have already made up their minds not to vote for her. All right. I believe him. So he says between 2004 and 2016, when Harris worked as San Francisco's district attorney and state attorney general, she supported legislation that sent kids who skipped school to jail. Now, I've heard this explained in another way, where she was prosecuting parents of truant kids, and it came down hard on really poor families. You know, if you have to if you're a single mom and you have to work, and you're going to work every day, and your kid's skipping school, you're going to go to jail. That's not helping anybody.
No.
You think that kid's going to go to school if he's not going to school and mom's around ish.
And if he's not getting along with mom and wants to do what he wants to do, that's some pretty good leverage. Some power on the point. Oh, you know what? You won't let me do this. You won't let me do that. You won't let me go to my friend's house tonight. Maybe I just won't go to school tomorrow, Mom. You're going to jail.
Yeah. I'll call up Miss Harris myself and tell her.
Yeah.
So she also, he says, opposed federal supervision of California's prisons after the U.S. Supreme Court ruling declared the overcrowded facilities inflicted cruel and unusual punishment on inmates. This is sounding pretty bad for her, huh? When she appealed a court order to implement new parole programs, Harris cited the need to use prisoners as slave labor to fight wildfires and pick up trash on the highways.
Look, I've heard this before about Kamala.
You're so thrilled to find out that that's how we're supposed to pronounce her name.
Oh, this is going to be fun. Oh, this is going to be a great election cycle. I've heard this about Kamala, and quite frankly, I'm shocked that she was so hard on criminals, and her criminal justice record is what it is, because we're talking about someone from San Francisco, and then later, overall of California. This doesn't sound like a record of someone from San Francisco or California.
Right. No, it's shocking. She was pretty hard on crime. And that's not looked at kindly by the Democrat side.
No.
From what I gather. No. So he's absolutely right. Trump's done more for prison reform than she did. So I'd love to see them stand up on stage and have that discussion. That would be pretty ugly.
It would be. But my question is, well, I'm thinking general election politics, and she has to get through the primaries first. But this goes back to a discussion we've had quite a bit about the battle for the heart and soul of the Democratic Party. These candidates are going to be dragged so far to the left. I mean, you're already seeing it with this Green New Deal, where all of them can't jump on board fast enough. If this were Guam, it would tip over from the momentum of these candidates jumping on this issue. But they're going to have to, like you said, a lot of them are taking what Bernie was talking about and putting their much more younger and attractive faces on these and on these issues. And because we're talking about what are we up to now? 62, 63 people running for president on the Democratic side. There, you have to separate yourself from the pack. And being that the voters in these primaries are generally further to the left than the general population, your average voter, they're going to have to distinguish themselves by moving further and further to the left. And my question is, and I already kind of know the answer to this because the mainstream media will protect these people when it comes to the general election and forget what they say during the primaries. But when you go that far off the reservation, no offense, when you go that far off the reservation,
sorry, Elizabeth Warren,
how do you dial it back for the general?
I don't know that you can. And if you would look at somebody like Bernie, wouldn't dial it back in a general. And people would expect him not to, but I don't know about everybody else. And I don't know if there's enough Trump hatred that the hardcore lefties will just forgive everybody and realize, okay, now we've got to pivot. We've got to pivot to the center.
I think you'll see that because there are still so many lefties out there who are furious with Jill Stein.
Oh, yeah.
Jill Stein is responsible for Trump getting elected. Forget the fact that this is what bothers me about that kind of thinking. If Hillary Clinton would have been a decent candidate, Jill Stein would have been an afterthought. They're already attacking this Howard Schultz guy, saying, "Oh, Howard Schultz is going to make sure that Donald Trump will be the next president of the United States." Well, why are you saying that? Is it just because of what happened with Hillary, or do you have so little confidence in whoever you're going to nominate? Is that what it is? Because I'll tell you, the stuff that's coming out of Howard Schultz, that's right.
Yeah.
Howard Schultz's mom. Yeah. The first thing he said was the greatest threat to our nation is our national debt. Now, if you are on the right and you are a never Trumper, right away, Howard Schultz's message is a little bit more palatable because he's saying stuff like the national debt is our biggest threat. And that turns off pretty much most primary voters on the Democratic side, right? I mean,
right.
Spend. So it's just going to be interesting to see if whoever gets nominated on the Democratic side will be able to pivot, and if someone like a Howard Schultz, if he does truly run and can get on the ballot in all 50 states, who he'll pull from. I don't know why I went on that rant. What were we talking about?
We were talking about Kamala.
Oh, Kamala.
Yes, from Two Live Crew's perspective.
From Two Live Crew's perspective. I don't know. Stuff like that.
But I think this kind of stuff hurts her.
Yeah, being tough on crime. Being tough on crime. I mean, if you're Cory Booker, if you're Beto, if you're Elizabeth Warren, these are the issues that you try to focus on when you're attacking Kamala. And by doing so, you don't necessarily have to, at least on that issue, move too far to the left, because you're going to paint her out to be Barry Goldwater.
She's Sheriff Joe. What are you talking about?
Yeah, right?
She's going to use convicts as slave labor to pick up trash on the highway and also to put out forest fires.
And make e-meters?
Oh, but she's so cool. She danced on the
Right?
Colbert Show.
I mean, you watched that video. Did you think to yourself, oh my God, you're so phony?
No, I thought that that's an in-kind contribution, and they better have declared that to the FEC.
Well, she hadn't
They
announced.
made a commercial for her.
Yeah, but she hadn't announced she was a candidate yet.
But I tried to figure out what this whole exploratory committee stuff means, and you're only allowed to raise a certain amount of money. I think it was like a $5,000 cap, and it's just to run some polls and do some preliminary stuff. But I would think that that would go against that $5,000.
Oh gosh, how much do you think it costs to have a national 2-minute ad on a late night talk show?
Oh, more than $5,000.
That's just, forget about the production
Right.
cost, just the time alone. And has any other candidate done that yet?
I haven't seen anybody get passed around like that. Like that was all over social media.
Oh, that laugh of hers drives me crazy. I mean, it's better than Hillary's cackle.
Yeah, well, she's got a cackle too. That's what I keep thinking of her as, the cackler.
It's a cackle, dry humping a guffaw.
Okay. But she just likes to have fun with the girls at the barbecue, you know?
Yeah.
Dancing to Gaga. She gets crazy.
She's Kamala from the block. That's all
Right.
she is.
Throwing poor women in jail because the kids ain't go to school.
Oh, it just makes me sick to see political candidates going out of their way, and Trump did this too. Except from what I heard, Trump actually did eat this way. But when you're seeing Trump having pictures taken of himself eating a Big Mac or Kentucky Fried Chicken or something, I'm just like you. Look at me.
Well, I think that's his diet.
Yeah. Okay.
We now know he's morbidly obese, or he's reached the obese. Remember?
Yes.
The New York Times squeezed 2,000 words out of that. Fat shaming the president.
Yeah, but when I see crap like that, it's like, oh God, get your 18 people who surround you, who focus group all this stuff out of your hair and just be yourself. Now, like I said, maybe this is a bad example because from what I heard, he's got a terrible diet. But still, it's like, oh, look at me. I'm just like you. I eat Kentucky Fried Chicken. I'm Donald Trump. And I approve this message. I mean, really? Oh, I'm Kamala Harris. I go to barbecues and I dance in my chair. Wow. Okay. Oh, I just can't stand politics or phony politicians.
Well, get ready for the next year and a half.
Yeah.
It's going to be nothing but.
I mean, Elizabeth Warren. I'm going to get me a beer.
Oh, look, it's my husband in my own house. Weird thing.
And she's filming this Instagram video, and she probably has like 4 staffers in her kitchen with her.
Well, she didn't know how to turn it off at the end. You didn't see that? And
No,
how do you do this thing?
I'm surprised she doesn't have a flip phone, to be honest with you.
Oh, who knows if it was her phone?
Oh, that's true, too. By the way, speaking of flip phones, and I don't have the piece in front of me, and I don't want to get into it too much, but are you seeing where these smartphone manufacturers are now trying to come up with flip phones that are smartphones?
No.
I don't know why you'd want a flip phone. I just don't see. Okay, it's going to be smaller, but it'll be thicker, and
Yeah.
And it's going to break.
Probably. I don't know. I thought you were going to talk about the what was the new? I think it's a Samsung, and it's called a Fold. So it looks like it's about the size of, here's my phone. So it's like the size of this, and then it folds open into like an iPad size, and it closes. So there's a screen here, and then it opens up, and there's screens in here.
Oh, I just read the headline. Maybe that's what it is. I said flip
yeah.
phone, and I was like, "Oh, you flip it open." I'm like, "Oh, crap! Are you kidding me? Why
you
you
flip it open and it's a whole tablet size, and whatever you had on the smaller screen then flips to the bigger screen, and it's pretty cool.
Yeah,
That's it. It was funny. I watched the keynote that the guy gave about it. I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. Let me watch all these things. And first of all, it was so lame. But then he announced the price tag, and I think it's $1,890 for it. So $1,890. And the crowd was like, man. It's like, well,
what do you want?
Like, yeah, it's a phone and an iPad, It's pretty sweet.
I want a phone that's also an iPad, and I want it to be $215.
Yes.
Look, I have an iPhone 7 Plus, okay? Mm-hmm. And now it seems small. At the time, it seemed really big when I got it. I think you're finding with Apple, they're victims of their own success. Now when this phone is paid off, which it will be here in a few months, I'm going to ride that thing out until it dies. I'm not going to be one of these people that, I got to have the latest and greatest. It does everything I want. I mean, how good does my camera have to be? Why do I need 5 cameras on a phone? I'm a middle-aged fat guy. I'm not taking selfies. Give me the internet. Let me be able to text. I mean, I'm not talking on the phone. Who talks on their phone? Right? So right. You're seeing, at least the trend in the U.S. seems to be that smartphone sales are slowing because people are, like me. It's like, okay, what more do I need? What people are looking for the wow factor. What's the next big thing that a phone's going to be able to do? And maybe it's this folding up from a tablet to a phone, and
it's pretty cool. Like, Apple needs to up their game.
$1,900 cool though. I mean, will you run out and you're an Apple person, aren't you? Yeah.
No, I wouldn't get. If Apple put that out, I might consider it. It's like, I have an iPad and a phone right now. I could just have one thing instead of 2. But I'm sure the battery life will suck.
Yeah, it will. And then what are you going to do? Like, I've got an OtterBox for my phone.
Yeah, I don't know how. Me too. I don't know what it'll be like.
Be like
won't
luggage,
fold up all night.
Samsonite. A handle with wheels on it.
Oh man!
But okay, well, we're almost an hour in, Tracy. What else do you want to talk about?
Wow. Well, I'm like, what other? We had some good stories, didn't we?
Yeah, we got talking about Scientology and Kamala. Oh, God, that's going to take me forever. Kamala.
Well, here's one that we didn't prep for, but I want to hear your thoughts on this. So CNN's been doing town halls with the announced Democrats. And I think they gave Schultz one too, maybe. But Bernie Sanders is doing one.
Oh.
This week. And my first thought was, why the hell is he trusting CNN with anything?
You have to.
You think so? You think?
Look, I've had this discussion with content providers on the right who want to abandon Facebook, who don't want to use YouTube because of how they've been treating right-wingers. I mean, you see this with Patreon, where Jordan Peterson and who was the Dave Rubin?
Yes.
They pulled out of using Patreon because of censorship, and you're seeing the demonetization of content on YouTube from content providers on the right. And I've had discussions with people saying, well, I'm just not going to use it. The hell with it. Because what's the point? Well, the point is you have to. I get you don't want to. I don't want to either. I don't like the idea of using YouTube. But what's your solution? Okay, BitChute, that's great. But it doesn't have nearly the reach that YouTube has. So, I mean, to me, I think if Bernie Sanders is smart, he hear me out. If Bernie Sanders is smart, and he'll be able to get away with this because he's a lefty, he gets on there, and the first question's asked, and he says, listen, before I answer this question, I got a bone to pick with you people. And lays it all out, why, how CNN isn't trustworthy and screwed him over. And he was very apprehensive about coming back to CNN because of how he was treated. I think that's how you play it, don't you?
Do you think he'll do that, though?
No, he's a pussy.
Right. I mean, that's how I would play it if I were him, because I get your point. Yeah, you're being offered this huge platform. But these are the people that helped Hillary cheat.
Yeah.
They gave her the questions for your last town hall debate.
Right.
And you're just going to walk right back into that lion's den? Like, they don't like him. Even though everybody now has those same damn policies, they still do not like Bernie. And I can understand that. I mean, this is the guy, he switches his party affiliation so he can get that whole apparatus. And you have to be a Democrat to have access to all their voter rolls and all that kind of stuff. And then as soon as he's done with that, right back to being an independent. Now he switched again. But he's out of the gate. $6 million he raised in the first 24 hours?
It's nice to be able to choose socialism and not have it being forced on you. And what I mean by that is being, you know what, I want to be a grifter on your party, and I'm going to crash your party and use it for any way I want to be able to use it. But I get to walk away from it when I want to walk away, when it doesn't suit me anymore. Now, we won't be able to do that if they get all of their policies implemented. But he just kind of comes and goes, and that's cool. I'm going to, use your system to get another beach house. And then if it doesn't work out, I'll be an independent again. Yeah, it's bullshit. People, if you're a Democrat, you should be pissed. Mm-hmm. And it makes, if you look at it that way, it explains a little bit more why they buried a big knife in his back during the primary process.
Well, we were talking about that the whole time back in 2016, saying, like, this is insane. Why are they letting him just waltz into their party and run?
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense. He's not a Democrat. But you have to play on the two parties or you're never getting anywhere.
It would. I'm not saying that the election results would have been different, but I wonder what would have happened if he had run as an independent.
I think he would have taken a decent chunk of the vote. I think Trump would have won because he's going to siphon way more from Hillary than he would from Trump.
Yeah.
I think. I mean, I do think a lot of Bernie bros, as they're derisively called, came over to the Trump side because they were so disgusted with the DNC and how they treated him.
I still can't figure Randy Quaid out. I mean, he was a huge Bernie bro. And then when...
Well, he hated Hillary.
Yeah. And then when Bernie got screwed over... You're seeing these tweets from him, and I can't tell if he's just messing with everybody or if he is actually a Trumper now. He's really good at what he does.
Yes, he is.
And if
as you always say, he's a Canadian treasure.
He is a Canadian treasure. And unless you're following his everyday Twitter feed, just when his more popular videos pop up, it's stuff where you're like, wow, he's coming across as a Trumper. Is this real? Or is he just messing around? I can't tell.
Oh, does it matter?
No, it doesn't matter. Who cares? I was asked yesterday if I was a Trumper. I was like, no, I have to say, though, even though I'm not a Trumper, I'm really happy with my not Hillary vote in 2016.
Yeah.
So it.
I think being a Trumper just means you're on the more fun side of things, where you can look at all this stuff and just kind of laugh.
Yeah, but there are some people that have just gone overboard. I won't mention this pundit's name, but she was a friend of the
pro side or the anti side.
Pro side.
Oh, okay.
Tweeted out a photo of Donald Trump and said, "This is the best president in the history of our country." I'm like, okay, are you trolling everybody, or do you really believe that Donald Trump is the best president in American history?
I don't know, Fingers. He's going to go. He's on his way to Vietnam right now to maybe negotiate peace between the Koreas.
Oh, that won't happen.
You don't think so?
No.
Why?
That dude's crazy.
Yeah. I don't know. I think he has got a good shot at this. I don't think he's as nuts as you think.
What does Kim Jong-un get out of not always having this threat of a nuclear program? I mean, because eventually you throw some money at him, eventually that money will dry up, and then he's got to saber rattle again to get more money. What?
Right, but he doesn't have to have a shithole country anymore because people will trade with them. They can actually build industry. Like Trump said, they have great beachfront. They could have some nice hotels. Maybe they open up gambling. Who knows? But you don't have to live in some shithole anymore. And you can be respected. I mean, imagine his position. So he's the grandson.
Mm-hmm.
And wasn't necessarily set to be the heir. He wasn't the heir apparent per se. But growing up knowing this is what you're going to inherit, would you be that stoked about it?
Well, no. But
right.
if you introduce some freedom into your society and economic freedom, man, I'll tell you what, that you saw what happened in the Soviet Union. If you're only concerned with raw political power, I don't know if you want to do that. You should do.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I don't know that that's his concern. I do think that the party, that's their concern.
Yeah, is
raw political power and protecting themselves. Because if they give up their nukes, then they're just sitting ducks to be taken out, like we saw with the most recent example is Gaddafi, right?
Yeah,
he gave up all his stuff during Iraq War, 2.5, and then guess what happens to him years later? Like he has no level of protection. But if Kim Jong-un doesn't want any of this stuff, and he's away from all the people in the party that are around him, the generals and all those kind of people that would also fall if he did, he could cut a deal with Trump. Cut a deal with Trump and what is his name, Moon in South Korea, and just say, look, I want this. I want peace. I just don't want to die. And like, if you guys got to take out a bunch of the guys behind me that are propping me up. I mean, there's plenty of video. Like, this is not this. I've heard this theory from other people. Like, he's getting pushed around and told what to do and how to behave because they know what happens when a regime like that falls. Like, the people themselves are going to turn against them too.
Right. Listen to you.
Well, I just think it's possible. You look at the rest of the world and you're like, God, we have nothing. Like, what a crappy place to live.
Oh, I mean,
looking at South Korea,
you see
like,
those
holy shit.
Satellite images at night of how the peninsula looks, and you could pretty much see the border.
Yeah,
just
there's no light, and then there's light.
Yeah. So
it was like one of the things that the Soviets saw when they started getting American TV and American music, and they're like, wait, what? The maids on, I think it was Dallas, were wearing fur coats, and they're like, what the hell is this? Wait, we thought everybody over there was poor and they were oppressed, and wait a minute. They got nice stuff. I have yet to see a breadline on any of these shows. The hell's going on?
Well, that's the thing too. I mean, anything that if you've seen any documentaries on North Korea, and I know you have, it'll be so hard to get into the mind of a North Korean. I think I saw was 60 Minutes, I believe, with Diane Sawyer. I think maybe this was a long time ago, and she had a magazine. She was in a North Korean classroom, and she had an American magazine. It may have been Time or something, and she put it on a desk, and they wouldn't even look at it. Didn't want to. It was like, I'm not even looking at this. It's American. Don't want to have anything to do with it. They're the enemy. Japan and North Korea are our enemies, and South Korea.
Japan and South Korea.
Yeah. So I don't know if you can break that hold. But if the dear leader says tomorrow, if he comes out drinking a Coca-Cola and he's got a Harley Davidson shirt on, and he's like USA all the way, maybe he can change their minds. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to tell how much of that is for show.
That's true too.
And not because it's they have the weekly tattle on yourself, and if you don't tattle enough, then we'll tattle on you kind of sessions. It's like the struggle sessions that they had in China. So every week you got to come up and say, I Tracy Connors, I'm a poor citizen of North Korea. This is my sins against the state. And if I don't say something that I did, you get to pipe up and say, oh, no, I saw you do X, Y, Z. So it's all this self-enforcing kind of stuff that keeps those people in line.
Yeah.
I have to believe that they don't fully, that they know better, but are just, this is a self-preservation kind of thing. Because not only if you get in trouble, do you go to the camps, but your entire family goes.
Right. But they have a lovely ski resort.
Oh, yeah, I know. I saw that recently.
Rodman went skiing. I saw it.
Did he?
Oh, yeah. You got to see that documentary where Rodman goes to North Korea.
All right.
And then
put that on the list.
Yeah, put that on the list with Dee Snider.
Yep.
Testifying in front of Congress, and Dennis Rodman goes to North Korea. He was supposed to have this summit at the ski resort, but he got too drunk on the slopes, and it was canceled.
Is he a good skier?
Beats me. I don't remember if he was tubing or skiing, one of the two, but it's like really nice. Everybody was skiing, having a good time. But I don't know. We're hour and 10 minutes in, and I've got 13% left on my laptop as far as battery life goes. And for some reason, I didn't bring my charger up with me to my massive studio here. Enough already studios. So, anything else quickly before we wrap this up?
Nothing quick. No.
Well, I've got another couple minutes. I went from 13 to 12% in 2 minutes. So, is there anything else you want to touch on?
Oh, let me check real quick. I think we're pretty much good, unless you want to talk about Dianne Feinstein getting surrounded by a bunch of 8 and 9-year-olds, or how children were.
Okay,
talk about brainwashed children.
Yeah.
Seems like a good pivot.
Yeah, so let me get this straight. The video is released of these children who go to Dianne Feinstein's office.
Yes.
And they are they're lobbying her to get on board with the Green New Deal. Because these 7-year-olds who are going into the office have read the legislation, they comprehend it, they understand the ramifications of passing such a thing, and so they naturally are going to lobby their senators to try to get this passed. And they show the video hits the social medias in a way that people should have been suspicious. They was this edited? Because they made it out to be her to be a grouchy old lady, and as we all know, Tracy, Dianne Feinstein is not a grouchy old lady.
No, she's sunshine, rainbows, and lollipops.
Am I painting this picture correctly? Am I missing anything?
Yeah, I think we saw it on Twitter. So I guess Twitter has a video limit.
Yes. Of
2 minutes and 20 seconds or something. So that's the argument from this group. What do they call the Sunshine Foundation or something?
Something like that, yeah. And come to find out, if you see the whole video footage, she actually wasn't that grouchy, and tried to talk to them and said, hey, I believe she offered one of them an internship someday. Like, come on in,
yes,
because she's in the Senate for life. So this kid,
well, she just got reelected.
Yeah. So it was fake news.
Mm-hmm.
That's all.
That was your takeaway? This is just fake news.
Oh, yeah. How many times are we going to get roped into this bullshit? You can't trust anything you see on Twitter. You can't trust anything you see on Facebook when it comes to videos. There's a spin on it. It's edited. And And the funny thing is, if you read the comments, people are on the left are acting like Dianne Feinstein is not left wing enough for them. It's like, wow, what world are you living in where Dianne Feinstein is not left wing enough?
No, and she was perfectly reasonable with these children who have been whipped into a frenzy by adults. They really believe that the world is going to end in 12 years.
Yeah.
They're like, scientists are saying that the world is going to end in 12 years. No scientist said that. That's from our friend who shall not be named this week. That's from her mouth. And no, that to me is so sick, though, to take kids and do that to them. I mean, they did that to us in school.
Yeah.
I don't know if they did that to you. For us, it was acid rain's going to kill us.
Acid rain. Chlorofluorocarbons. We're going to destroy the ozone layer.
And then there's going to be no rainforest left.
Right.
And you don't hear a word about any of that stuff
The
anymore.
rainforest is completely gone. Acid rain, you don't hear about acid rain anymore.
Right, but I remember talking about me having a feeling. I remember they got me so upset about chlorofluorocarbons, and it comes from aerosol cans.
Right.
And I was at my grandmother's house, and she was a huge Aquanet fan.
Well, who wasn't?
I know. And I remember like going in and being so upset about it and making her throw them away. Like, you can't use this anymore because you're going to destroy the planet for me. There's this giant hole in the ozone, and you're making it worse every time you fix your hair.
Yeah. But left and right, I don't like seeing kids at the March for Life. I'm sorry.
No.
Why can't you let a kid be a kid? 7-year-olds should not be going and lobbying any politician for anything. It's one thing to have your kid go and just to see what it's like to visit a senator's office, meet a senator. That's a big deal for anybody, let alone a kid. Sure. But to start lobbying for legislation,
no, you have to sign this one, because she said that she has her own proposal. She tried to point out this has absolutely no way to pass, none whatsoever. You need 60 votes in the Senate. We're not close to that, kids. So it's just impractical. And she's like, you got to learn in politics that you have to make compromises, and you got to get people on board with you. So we've written something, and she's like, turns to her staffer. She's like, can you go print that out? Like, everybody here gets a copy of it. Like, make sure
in crayon.
Yeah.
And really, these kids don't sound much different from our friend that we're not going to mention this week.
No, they don't. We're all going to die. Won't you please sign it? Like, why don't you just vote yes on it if it's not going to pass then? Just vote yes. So what difference does it make? Well, you morons, it's not going to pass.
Yeah.
Well, can you just please vote for it? What difference does it make, kids? Yay, she voted for it. She cares. You just want us all to die, Dianne.
Yeah.
No, it's scary what they've done to that generation. I don't know about your kids, are probably getting that in school.
Oh, yeah. There was one year a couple of years ago and it really pissed me off, and I got some blowback on the internet about it, but I really don't care. They said, the kids aren't going to hand out Valentine's Day this year on Valentine's Day because we decided that we're going to use that time later in the year for Green Day. Or Earth Day for Green Day. Yeah, they're going to celebrate Dookie. For Earth Day. And I thought, you got to be kidding me. They aren't going to hand out Valentine's because they're going to celebrate Earth Day. And they'll probably show Al Gore's movie and scare the hell out of my kids.
Wait, what does not handing out Valentine's have to do with Earth Day?
Well, there's only a certain amount of time you have during the year to have parties and stuff. So rather than take the time to have a Valentine's Day party like they have every year and hand out Valentine's, we're going to take that time and use it later in the year for Earth Day. So
of course.
That allotted time will be used on Earth Day instead of Valentine's Day.
Awesome.
So, yeah, they're doing everything. Like I try to talk my kids off the edge, and try to explain to them, like, okay, yes, over the years, we had a whole bunch of things that were going to end the Earth. There's a harmonic convergence back in the mid-'80s where all the planets were going to be in line, and that was going to affect the gravitational pull of Earth and pull it apart. We were going to die then. Acid rain was going to kill us. I mean, you went over the whole list. These same people were saying by 2011, Manhattan was going to be underwater, and none of this ever happens. It's just a a political power move, and they're trying to scare you. Just stay calm. Well, okay, Dad. And I'm sure that the teachers tell the kids, okay, your parents may not believe in all this, but, they're just out of touch, and they probably science deniers. Oh, but anyway, we got to go. I'm at 6%. Yeah.
All right.
She's Tracy. I'm Fingers. Remember, you can find the Enough Already podcast on Stitcher, SoundCloud, iTunes, TuneIn, Google Play, YouTube, BitChute. Anything else?
EnoughAlready.us.
And EnoughAlready.us. We may have a video this week of this podcast. So thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. We'll be back soon with another Enough Already.